If you're looking for a no-compromise lift kit for your 2019 to 2024 four-wheel drive Hemi-powered Ram 1500, Eibach has got your solution. This is a bolt-on kit designed to replace your factory shocks and springs that gives you adjustability, excellent ride quality, additional height, and overall better performance for a really solid price. If you mention suspension to any auto enthusiast, Eibach will likely come to their mind pretty quickly. They're one of the leaders in suspension technology and development, and they've been making components for all manner of vehicles for over 70 years. So, safe to say, when these kits come through the door, I'm always eager to get my hands on them. Now, first and foremost, this is going to give your truck more height in the front and rear, essentially functioning as both a lift and leveling kit. These front coilovers are height adjustable using the threaded spring perch down here on the bottom. These can be run anywhere from 1 inch of lift up to about 3.25 inches of total lift in the front, so it gives you quite a bit of adjustability. You're also going to get about 1 inch of additional height in the rear thanks to the springs. And with everything set to its highest setting, you can fit 33-inch tires without rubbing issues or having to make other modifications. Though it is worth noting, if you have really wide tires or a really high offset wheel, plan on having to do some minor trimming. Otherwise, 33s will fit without an issue. Also important to note that if you are running these at a lower height setting, you may need to adjust your tire size accordingly. Now, since the fronts are coilovers, they come fully assembled as you see them here, with new springs, new top mounts, and new lower mounts as well, making them a bolt-in solution. And they come packed with all the benefits of Eibach's Pro-Truck Coil-Over 2.0s. These are nitrogen-charged monotube dampers that are designed to give you a great balance of ride quality and control, whether you're running down the street or the trail. And that's thanks to the variable force valving technology, which utilizes a specially designed valve stack inside of the damper to smooth out bumps and allow you to stay in control of the truck. They also allow for increased overall travel too, and that's especially important since you're able to adjust the height. Now, in the rear, you get a set of the same matching Pro-Truck 2.0 shocks and some springs as well. Now, these are going to match perfectly with the coilovers and the springs in the front. The rear setup is not height adjustable though, but it will give you that extra inch of lift, and it will help level out the stance of your truck, making sure that it sits pretty even front to rear. Now, much like the coilovers up front, the shocks and springs ensure that everything stays buttoned up properly for street or trail use. These, like the front shocks, are designed to stand up to heavier loads, making them perfect for a truck that sees overlanding duty or one that hauls often. But it will also help keep your truck's ride quality and general manners nice and controlled and palatable out on the street, and allows you to have better control out on the trail as well. Construction, as you might expect, is also a standout. The bodies of the shocks are made from 6061 T6 billet aluminum, and the mounting points are all anodized for a cool look and some extra protection. Inside, you'll find 46mm pistons, heavy-duty zinc-coated cylinders, and a nitro steel shaft. The springs are made from your typical cold-wound spring-style steel and finished with this nice silver powder coat to help keep them protected against rust and corrosion. And all of your mounting points up here as well are that same anodized aluminum, plus on the rear shocks, you get new OE-style bushings as well. Pricing for this kit comes in at about $1,600, which for a full coilover kit is actually a pretty good price, especially considering you're getting those adjustable height coilovers for the front, plus all new shocks and springs all around. That is a serious price, but this is also a serious bit of kit. And to get this kind of feature set from other kits, you'd have to spend quite a bit more in most cases. So this really ends up being quite a value proposition. Installation gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you around 3 hours to complete. While this is a bolt-on setup that will simply replace your factory struts and rear shocks and springs, there really isn't need for a spring compressor, so getting everything in and adjusted will take some time, so plan for that, but overall, it's a very straightforward process. We're going to walk you through that process right now, so for that, let's head on out to the shop.
For this install, you need a 3/8 impact and ratchet, a pry bar, 21, 18, 16, and 8mm socket, 15/16, 21, 19, 18, 16, 14, and 9mm wrench, and a hammer, and also now shown be a lift and pole jacks. Alright, today we're going to be installing a lift kit on our Ram. First, we're going to watch a quick video how to uninstall a stock system, then we'll come back here to install the new one.
First things first, guys, of course you want to get your truck up in the air, whether you're using a lift or if you're working on the ground with the jack and jack stands. Now I got my 22 socket here in my air tools. I'm going to get this wheel out of the way so we can get started. First thing we're going to do with the wheel out of the way is disconnect a couple of ABS line clips. That way when we're lowering down our entire spindle, it's not putting extra pressure on our brake lines. Now, This line here, the ABS line and the brake line are connected. So we're gonna pull back on this plastic clip to disconnect and slide those guys out. Follow the ABS line up and it's connected to the upper control arm. We're gonna wiggle that guy back and forth to disconnect it. Follow it back down to the spindle and there's one more to pull out. All right, now on the back of the spindle, you'll see this metal clip. It's more of an S-shaped. We're just gonna wiggle this rubber grommet out of that. And now you can see this whole thing's loose and has a lot of slack. Next step, we're gonna pick up our 21mm deep socket and we're gonna loosen it and remove the nut holding on our tie rod end. Now what I like to do is once I have that nut off, pull the tie rod end out, and I like to put the nut back on just so we don't lose it. Next, we're gonna remove the bottom bolt of our strut. Now, it's a 21mm bolt head with a 15/16 nut on the opposite end. So I've got my wrench on the nut there and my 21 on the bolt head. We're gonna get this guy off. Now, we may need a hammer to just tap this out, but if you can wiggle it out, you can do that now. All right, next we wanna remove the bottom of our sway bar end link nut and the upper control arm to spindle nut. Those things are gonna have the entire spindle drop down, or the lower control arm as well, and we wanna make sure we have that weight supported so it doesn't drop down on us. So if you're working on a lift, grab a pole jack at this point. If you're working on the ground, a hydraulic jack will do the trick. All right, next up we're gonna grab an 18mm deep socket and loosen and remove the bottom nut of our sway bar end link that connects to the lower control arm. Now in theory, you could remove the top portion that connects to the sway bar, but I find it easier to do it this way just because there's a lot more room to work with and I can get an impact gun on here. So now we can take the 18 and remove it. With this out of the way, when we go to lower this thing down, the sway bar won't stop it from going as low as we need it. All right, so next we want to tackle the upper control arm to the spindle bolt. Now when we're trying to loosen it, this is going to rotate back and forth. In order to keep it from doing that, to make our lives easier, I'm just going to take this nut off and put our tie rod end back on. Now we don't have to tighten it down, but that'll keep it from moving around too much and help us out. With your lower control arm still supported, grab a 13/16 wrench or a 21, and you're going to go in here and break this upper control arm to spindle nut loose. We have this loose. I'm going to bring the nut down to a couple of the last threads. We're not going to completely remove the nut just yet. As you can see, the spindle is still attached to the upper control arm. We need to grab a hammer and break this guy loose so it'll jolt free. If you completely remove this nut, that'll break free and it'll drop down. So this is going to help catch it. Then we'll come back and remove it. So we're going to grab a hammer and tap on the actual spindle. You don't want to hit the upper control arm. You don't want to risk damaging the bushing. So we're going to hit this side right here on the spindle. All right, so you saw us break that loose. Now we can remove our nut. I'm going to grab a pry bar and put it on the coil and pull down on the upper control arm. That way we can disconnect them. Let's work that nut off. All right, I'm going to drop that off to the side for now. You want to grab the spindle and slowly let go of the upper control arm. Now we can bring this down. Now I'm just gonna take that nut and again, just thread it up on the upper control arm just so we don't lose it. All right, now we have our truck lowered a little bit to gain access to the top of our strut. Now there's 3 nuts. If you push this liner back a bit, 1 in the front right here and then 2 at the back. Now you'll see the wire is actually mounted to the top of that, so we'll be able to pop those off in just a bit. I would definitely recommend a 16mm ratcheting wrench. I have a longer guy here to give me a little bit more leverage. This is gonna make life a lot easier just ratcheting back and forth. Otherwise, you can use a regular wrench or a ratcheting socket if you can get it in there. So let's get these 3 nuts off. So now I'm just reaching my hand back in here and I'm gonna wiggle back and forth the wiring harness to get them off of the stud. All right, so we got one of them off, this little clip. Just pull that back and rotate it up. Let's do the same thing on the other one. And again, I know this is tough to see, but really just pushing it out of the way. All right, so now we're switching back over to our ratcheting wrench and we're gonna work off the last 2 bolts. All right, at this point, the strut is loose. We just have to get it out of position. So in order to do that, I'm gonna push down on the entire spindle lower control arm assembly, lift this guy up, and pop it out. Just like that.
All right, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our vehicle supported, get some pull jacks under the axle to support the weight, and then we just need to take out our bolt for our track bar on our driver's side. So we're gonna grab our impact and 21mm socket and take that out. All right, now we're gonna come to our rear sway bar link. We're gonna take our upper bolt out for our mount. So we're gonna grab our impact and 16mm socket and take that out. All right, now we're gonna come to our shock. We're gonna take our lower mount off. So we have our bolt here. We're gonna take a 21mm wrench and our impact and 21mm socket and take that off. All right, now you can go ahead and repeat the same thing for the shock and the sway bar link on the other side. All right, now that we have everything disconnected, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna evenly lower the rear axle so we can get our springs out. You just wanna keep an eye on your brake lines and all of your other harnesses and hoses along the axle. Just make sure you're not pulling on anything. If we need to, we'll disconnect some attach points if we need to. Now that our spring's out, we just have to remove the rest of our shock. To access the top bolt, we're gonna remove our cover here. So that's 3 8mm bolts on this side, 1 on the inside. Grab a ratchet and socket, take those out. Take that out of the way. You'll see we have access to the top nut. So to take our top nut off, we're gonna have our 18mm ratcheting wrench. And I'm also gonna have a 9mm wrench just to hold the stud from spinning. Get that off. Get this out of the way and remove our plates and bushings. So we got our new strut here. We're gonna get this lined up in place. Line up our top studs. Just push down our knuckle a little bit and get this in. Just gonna loosely thread on our top nuts and we'll get our lower bolts in and get everything tightened down. So we'll grab our lower bolt, get this lined up. A little tap with the hammer. Get our nut threaded on the back side. We'll go ahead and grab our impact 21mm socket and our 15/16 wrench, tighten that down. Next, we're gonna get our knuckle back into our upper ball joint. Now I have a pry bar here. Gonna pry down in between our spring just to line everything up. Gonna pry down enough to get this on a couple threads. Grab our 21mm wrench and tighten that down. Put our tie rod in just to keep that from spinning. Grab your 14mm ratcheting wrench and we'll tighten our top 3 nuts down. Don't forget to secure down your wiring harness. Push that back down the studs. So we have our tie rod and our knuckle already. Just push that all the way down. Get our 21mm nut on. Grab our impacted socket, tighten that down. While we're here, we can put our ABS wire into our clip on the back of the knuckle. We just have our sway bar link. We're going to thread our nut on, grab our impact 18mm socket, tighten that down. Lastly, we just have our 2 clips for our harness, one on our brake line here and one on our upper control arm. Now once you have this done, you can go ahead and repeat all these same steps on the other side. So now we're going to get our new shock in. Now we have a bottom plate with the bushing already there. You'll see the raised portion is up. Now we're going to have another bushing and cap on top. We're just going to sandwich like so. We're going to get this up in here and get our nut threaded on. Get our nut threaded on by hand. Then we're going to grab a 19mm wrench and go ahead and tighten that down. Now that our top shock mount is on, we can put our cover back in place. Let's get everything lined up, and we're going to thread in our 4 8mm bolts that we took out. Grab our ratchet and 8mm socket, and we'll go ahead and tighten all of these down. Now you can go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side, and we'll go ahead and get our new springs in. So we're going to get our new spring in. We're going to reuse our isolator. We're going to get our top in first and kind of push it up over our axle. Now you can go ahead and repeat the same thing with the other spring, and we're going to use our pull jacks to raise our axle back up. So just to make it easier, I have our track bar lined up. We're going to get our bolt through with our captured nut on the back side. Grab our impact 21mm socket and tighten that down. We have our lower shock mount lined up. Get our bolt through. Right on our nut. Impact 21mm socket and 21mm wrench. Go ahead and tighten this down. Put our bolt back in for our sway bar link. Get that threaded in. Grab our impact 16mm socket and tighten that down. Then you can go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side for the lower shock and sway bar link. And that wraps up our install of our Eibach Pro-Truck Coil-Over Kit, Stage 2 for our 2019 to 24 4-wheel drive 5.7 liter Ram 1500. And remember, for everything Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.